Good evening. My name is Diana Guerin. I'm the chair of the CSU Academic Senate and a professor at Cal State Fullerton. The primary purpose of the Academic Senate is to promote academic excellence and to speak as the official voice of the faculty of the CSU. On a personal note, it sounds like we have many things in common because I've benefited tremendously from California's higher education system, as has my family, and so has California. And you know that. I'm singing to the choir on this one. But the investments that California's leaders made in the master plan in the 1960s actually attracted the attention of my parents, who moved their young family from Illinois to California. And although my parents never had the benefit of college education, they wanted that for their 3 children. And so my 2 brothers and I graduated from California's public higher education system, as did my husband, whom I met at California Public Higher Education campus. So we're all first-generation college students. We all went to community colleges, and we all transferred to CSU and UC. And from the investment that California made 40 years ago in my family, California, let's just say that the outcome was that you have a university professor, a geophysicist, an electrical engineer, and also an attorney. And our kids have college degrees, and we vote and we pay taxes, and so do our children. And that's the way it's supposed to work. And it worked that way for many years. So the faculty appreciate the governor's multi-year budget plan, and you've heard enough about that. The Academic Senate supports the Board of Trustees' budget request, which asks for $95 million more than the governor has budgeted. And in his State of the CSU address a few weeks ago, Chancellor White said that the CSU infrastructure is frayed, not only in the physical infrastructure, which he told you about, but also, and I'd like to elaborate a little bit more, on the human infrastructure. We need to hire more faculty. Our permanent faculty numbers have dropped 8% in just the last 4 years alone. The permanent faculty count is lower than I can find a record on our CSU website, Chancellor's website. For example, compared to 1990, we had over 11,000 tenure-track faculty. We now have just over 9,000. And those 9,000 faculty are teaching 70,000 more students than the 11,000 faculty taught in 1990. So we need to hire tenure-track faculty because they work beyond the classroom. I'd also like to point out that over a quarter of CSU faculty, 27%, are 60 years or older. And so we really need to start focusing on recruiting the next generation of faculty. Chancellor White, and I know that you are aware, you've heard from others about the problems that we're having providing access to admission-ready students. Extra funding would be great, because nothing breaks my heart more than seeing students who've done everything we've told them, played by all the rules, gone to community college, and coming from high school, and they're ready, and we can't give them a spot. That's a broken promise.
Ma'am, in fairness to everyone, I'm going to ask you to
Yes, I'm finished. I'm finished.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for your attention and hope that you'll fund the CSU for that enrollment growth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Couch. I serve as the president of the California State Student Association, representative of the 437,000 students of the CSU. But first and foremost, I'm a student at Sacramento State working on my master's and hopefully graduating this semester. And I can honestly say, though, in my time, in my 7 years at the CSU, that I love the CSU. We're a game changer. We're unlike any other state institution, that we're unlike any other national institution for higher education, and we transform the lives of over 437,000 students. We educate the non-traditional student, first-generation students, all who want to give back to their communities and do the best that they can for their families. CSU students are the hardest workers that I have ever known. They work 1, 2, 3 jobs in order to pay for their education, and I am proud to represent them. We're asking for the legislature to provide the extra $95 million as proposed in the trustees' budget so that we can have access to the resources that we need, like academic advising and financial advising, so that we can complete our education quicker. At Sac State, it can take up to 3 weeks for you to see an academic advisor. It took 4 weeks because of an issue in financial aid for me to get my financial aid, so I'm just now receiving money to buy books. And so in all of that, I know that CSU students are going to remain committed to getting their degrees. What we're asking is for the state to remain committed to us as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Baker with the California Teachers Association. I wanted to focus on counselors in the community college system today. There are so many challenges that we've had with the fiscal cuts over the last decade, coupled with the fact that we've had so many more of our students within the K-12 system also not get the services that they need. So that really compounds the needs of the students in the community college system right now. We have significant gender ethnic diversity within our state. We also had significant needs when it comes to workforce and making sure that we're preparing the future workforce, whether they're going to go right into work or whether they're going to transfer to a higher ed. It's very important that we ensure that there's enough counselors for our students, because the needs of our students have been magnified even more because of the fiscal cuts that they've had within the educational process, coupled with the fact that many of them have gotten laid off or fired from the private sector, and they're coming back to get those additional skills that they need to be competitive. We encourage you, as we go through the fiscal process this year, to make counseling a priority to ensure that that really is the insurance for students to make sure that they can make it through the process and go to our wonderful higher ed institutions. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Professor Robert Stanley Oden from Sac State University. I'm also a proud member of California Faculty Association, and it's a pleasure to be I'm here before your committee, and also to see Nancy again. It's been a while. How you doing? I'm here to urge this subcommittee to recommend to the legislature to increase the funding for the CSU for the reasons that have been stated here by a lot of people. But the reason that hasn't been stated here is that we need to diversify our faculty at the CSU system. And at the rate of funding that the governor has recommended, as opposed to the funding that's been recommended by Speaker Perez, that is going to make it much tougher for us to hire qualified faculty of color to teach students at the university. We talk about access, and access to the university means having faculty that can relate to the student body and having faculty that is commensurate with the population in the state. So the funding losses that we've had over the past 6 years has made it very difficult for us to hire students, not students, but faculty of color. And it's very important that we have faculty of color so students of color can relate to those faculty members and graduate and get out of the system with a quality education. So the figures that are there right now from the governor's budget won't get us there. It'll be like a dribble as opposed to a real strong start. So I strongly recommend that you look at Speaker Perez's budget figures and go with those figures as a way to improve diversity at the university and to improve diversity at the faculty level.
Thank you
very much.
Hi, I'm Kevin Weir. I'm a professor at Sacramento State University. I'm so proud to stand here with all of these faculty and staff and students. This is our students are so articulate and passionate, and that's the kind of student that we can help produce at the university if you give us the funds. And so I'm here to speak in strong favor of Speaker Perez's budget blueprint. Over and above the governor's allocation is absolutely necessary. It's been 6 years. We've seen, you've heard, drops in faculty, increases in students. We've been able to absorb that through voluntary overwork. It's not sustainable. It can't be done any longer. I can't do my job any longer of trying to help contribute to the future of California. I, like Ms. Skinner, my whole family has benefited from public education in California all the way through. I'm actually fifth-generation Californian, so maybe my family even more than yours. But we can't offer that to our students anymore. I can't offer that. My faculty can't offer that. Not when we've moved from 30 students to in a classroom to 40 to 50 to now. We just built a new classroom so we can have 214 students in one class at a time. It's not fair to the students. It's not fair to the people of California. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Kraybacker. I, too, am a faculty member at California State University, and like so many other speakers, I, too, am a product of California higher education. My message is one you've heard before. I'll try to keep it brief, but let me just say that I've taught at Sac State for 25 years, and it's been a real joy. But the past 5 years or so and the budget shortfalls we've had to deal with have had a devastating effect both on resources, on students, and on morale. And as a result, the $120 million increase we have this year, the $140 million increase for next year in the governor's budget come across like a breath of fresh air. But being on the ground, one of the things we can see is that it isn't going to be enough for the future. And I just want to end by urging you to support the Chancellor's call for the additional $95 million, because we need it not for today, but we really need it for the next decade or so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Henry Morgan Steele. I'm an international business and logistics major at the California State University Maritime. And I also represent this campus as the External Affairs Officer, working alongside CSSA, and we represent the students, advocate. As a senior over the past 4 years, I have personally had an overall positive experience registering for classes that I need, but have certainly seen an increase in the difficulty to do so in recent years. Due to recent cuts, classmates of mine have been forced to take classes at their local community college, even after the technical graduation date, in order to receive a diploma, while others have had to take on additional semesters in order to receive those classes and learn the curriculum, which is designed to be completed in less time and by less expense to those students. I would like to see students of the future receive the same quality of education that I've received, and with a combined 3 million California undergrads, I feel that a mere 5% increase will not be sufficient. I urge you to increase funding for higher education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Scott Hamilton. I'm a learning disability specialist and counselor for students with disabilities at Cosumnes River College here in Sacramento. And I'm representing the California Association for Post-Secondary Education and Disability, with a professional organization of disabled students professionals. 5 years ago, the budget for DSPS programs in community colleges was cut almost 40%. Since then, while the entire community college system has lost 500,000 people, the number of students with disabilities that have come in for services has increased, even though there's 500,000 fewer students in the system. But with 40% less money and not all colleges making up the difference from their general fund, services have been lost for students. There was a study done by the Chancellor's Office 2 years ago which shows that 26% of students with disabilities who were in a class, not couldn't get in a class, who were in a class had to drop because they couldn't get their accommodations. It's a civil rights issue. It's just basic access. People have talked about access, success, transfer. You have none of that if a blind student can't get Braille, if a student with a brain injury can't have their test proctored because they need more time. I don't know. I have a hard time expressing it because it is so clear to me and everybody in our profession that the DSPS program and other programs that have been successful throughout the course of the community college system need full funding. Not just the DSPS program, EOPS program, other programs that have proven successful. We don't need to start new pass-through programs. We need to fund the programs that already proved to work. And I have a handout that I'll give to the sergeant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the committee, thank you for hearing me. My name is William Bruce. I am an EOPS director at Allen Haycock College, also a former EOPS student and welfare recipient. And now I have 2 kids. I pay taxes, pay their tuition. One's at a CSU and one's at a community college. I'm also the president of the EOPS Association, a professional association that advocates for the EOPS program. We are a proven successful program, and I like to echo what Scott Hamilton just said, that full restoration needs to happen for EOPS, DSPS, and CalWORKS. Thank you for your push last year to try to restore EOPS and the other categorical programs, as well as protecting us from in the priority registration. Once again, we're coming back to you to because we fell short last year. We want to come back and try to restore the programs that are most successful, that serve the most vulnerable students. Our programs are long-standing, over 50 years, and actually contribute to student success. EOPS, I hope you also reject the governor's proposal to flex EOPS and CalWORKS and basic skills for 25% of their funding to be flexed. That'll wipe out everything that you restored last year, which was, and some. It'll be a cut to our programs because by flexing the programs, and in his proposal it says he wants to flex underrepresented populations to give to other underrepresented populations, which makes no sense at all. We are a proven successful program. We will be back in April 2nd with additional testimony, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair. Jonathan Lightman on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. So we want to express our appreciation also to the administration for basing its proposal on the twin pillars of access and success. But we do want to underscore that student success is not just about front-loaded services like matriculation, assessment, and orientation. It never has been. It's about an ongoing ratio, appropriate ratio, of students to counselors. It's about access to faculty office hours, whether they be full or part-time. It's about having access to an appropriate ratio of full-time faculty. 58% full-time faculty teaching credit classroom instruction is absolutely unacceptable. It's not about balancing the books on behalf of the part-time faculty. Student success is also about appreciating the student services programs that you just heard, like DSPS, EOPS, CAL, and CARE, and not pitting one group of vulnerable students against another group of vulnerable students at the district level. How is that supposed to benefit underrepresented students if they have to then go and politic and say that for some reason they're more worthy than another group of underrepresented students? These programs are substantiated, and there's tremendous data to show their value, and we encourage you to continue in the direction that you went last year. And we also want to put in a plug for professional development for faculty, because this also contributes to student success. We have distributed a letter. We look forward to working with each of you individually as we progress through this process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Appel. I'm a faculty member at Diablo Valley College. I'm also a member of the Board of Governors of the Faculty Association, and I'm also the president of the United Faculty for the Contra Costa Community College District. I want to thank you guys for sticking around. I know it's been a lot of public comments, a lot of important things to hear, I'm sure. Last fall, Chancellor Harris proposed to the governor a 4.6% catch-up COLA, which disappeared kind of like an empty bottle of ketchup. And we ended up with a 0.86% COLA. And I certainly understand Chancellor Harris's position as a new chancellor of the community colleges for the state, and he wants to thank the government profusely. But a lot of us think that the way the growth dollars have been allocated is a mistake, because with a 3% allocation for growth, there are many districts in the state that are not going to grow. They're not going to get any money at all. And FAC has decided, our Board of Governors has requested that we transfer at least 1% of that 3% growth money into a COLA, so that would increase the COLA to 1.86, close to 2%, which you got to remember that community colleges not only use COLA for the obvious thing most people think about, which is salaries for all members of the college district, the staff, the faculty, the managers, but we also use COLAs to keep the lights on, to patch the holes in the roof, etc. So this is kind of a critical issue. We've seen a real drop in our COLA by approximately 16% over the last 5 years. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, chair members. My name is Eric Paredes, and I am a student at California State University, Chico. I am a junior majoring in political science. Over the last couple of years, the CSU system has faced major cuts, and this year, with the governor's proposal, it falls short of what my school actually needs. I would like to ask you all to please take into consideration an increase in funding for the CSU, because investing in the CSU system is investing in the future of California. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Millar, and I'm a student studying political science at CSU East Bay. The governor's proposal falls short of what my school and other CSUs need. For the past 3 years, I have struggled with classes because I have worked 3 jobs. Many students work multiple jobs to pay for classes, making it harder to graduate on time. I don't want the younger generations to suffer and struggle as much as I have. Additional funding will help students like me graduate on time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Fernandez. I'm studying communications and Chicano studies at California State University, Sacramento. We keep hearing that we are the future, but would you fund your future by just 5%? There are at least 5 campuses across the CSU system who are struggling with fee hikes. And contrary to popular belief, they're not voted on by the student body themselves, but by ASI representatives, administration, and finance committees who do not understand the burden that these fee hikes have on students that cannot afford them. We're at a point where students are paying more and more for education, and it does not need to be this way, which is why I urge you to increase funding for higher public education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Singleton Thibodeau Yost, and I'm a graduate student studying engineering geology at CSU Fresno. I've been struggling the past few years to get the services and support that I need to complete my degree. The governor's proposal is not enough. I'm asking you to increase the funding for the CSU system, and I'm going to ask my friends and family and fellow students to push on you for those additional dollars. An increase in funding is vitally important for the support and success of our students and institutions and should be our highest priority. Thank you very much for the few of you remaining to listen to our comments. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Asami, and I'm a graduate student with the Department of Geology at CSU Fresno. I'm here to ask you for more money than what Governor Brown has proposed for the CSU system. As my time as a graduate student and as an undergrad in the CSU system, I have seen tuition go up, I have seen a reduction in the number of courses that are available to us, and students really can't graduate on time. We just don't have the classes and the services that we need, so I'm here to ask for more funding, more than what Brown has proposed. I think what Speaker Pettis has proposed has been a little bit more on point, and I thank you very much for your time.
Good evening. My name is Edward Wilson. I work at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. I'm here today to ask that you don't give UC any blank checks for the fact that for 35 years at at LBNL, the bus services there had no fatality accidents or major accidents to put anybody in the hospital. 1 year into the new contract of the new company, they almost killed somebody. A bus sat on top of them for 2 hours waiting for them to get off to try not to hurt the person more. That's what happens when you bring inexperienced workers into an environment where you have skilled persons like myself, 12 years of experience before working at the lab. 3 of my years of working driving, now I'm displaced into custodial services. I'm asking that you follow the request of Governor Brown, following the requirements on contracting out that they also follow at CSUs, community colleges, and other state agencies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Claudia Preparata, and I'm the Research Director at AFSCME 3299. You've heard stories today from our members on what it's like to work at UC, and you've heard stories essentially about a widening income inequality gap, erosion of living standards for our service members, and quite frankly, just the degradation of market conditions throughout the state. As we know, UC is the third largest employer in California. As such, as it behaves as an employer has implications beyond the UC system. A couple of points that I would like to make. As we know, executive access at UC has been well documented. We've seen outrageously high salaries, skyrocketing perks, six-figure pension payouts, and much of this has happened, the increase, much of it has happened since the budget cuts in 2009. Not only is the governor, but also the regents themselves are actually starting to vote against some of these compensation packages that are coming up for approval at the regents' meetings. And to Assemblywoman Skinner's question, during this time period, the state cut UC by $900 million, and tuition was increased by $1.4 billion. So the question becomes, where has some of this money gone? So what is the collateral damage? I mean, obviously, I think from what you've heard today, the collateral damage is on our members, not exclusively, but they are the victims of it. As there is this executive access, UC obviously needs to offset these costs, and they're doing it by achieving, quote unquote, these efficiencies. So I caution when we ask UC to achieve efficiencies that they're the right efficiencies, right? Because the efficiencies at this point have been on the backs of our members. Just a few points that I'd like to make. 99% of our service members are income eligible for public assistance. Many of them work 1 or 2 additional jobs. This is even as a full-time career employee. If they cannot support their families and they go on public assistance, obviously they're shifting the costs onto the states. UC also is eliminating full-time career jobs and hiring more and more temp workers. We've heard someone today who, when he was at the threshold of becoming a career worker, essentially they let him go. Again, these workers, these members are not paid health insurance. They're not provided sick leave, etc. This is a way that UC is saving money. What is the implication?
Out of fairness, please wrap up.
Okay, and so what's the implication of that? I mean, as we've heard, 20% increase in injury rates. Contracting out is another trend as well. UC needs to be held to better standards. You don't see the same questions being raised for the CSU or the community college system, and there's a reason for that, because they're held to higher standards, and UC should be held to the same standards. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, my name is Willie Pelote, representing the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employee. And 3299 is a member of my union at UC. We are the largest public sector worker at the University of California. My job is to ask you to do 3 things on behalf of our membership. As you know, on the health side, we don't ask you for whatever we negotiate at the table to fund. But on the service side, we depend on the legislature to put the funding into the budget for the purpose of making sure we negotiate. The negotiation with UC, then the funds are there. It's similar to what the state of California ends up doing, but it doesn't come to you for ratification. So what we're asking is the $4.8 million to be in the state budget for our service employees. So if we do break this, I don't know, gridlock, that somehow we get to a point where that the funds will be there. It has happened in the past ever since I've been here for 18.5 years. We're asking for the subcommittees in both houses of the legislature to do it again. The second thing is we negotiated with the Governor's Office, Department of Finance, by way of the Speaker and the Pro Tem's office last year when UC got debt restructuring, because they can restructure their debt at a better interest rate. We negotiate language in the budget that we want to make sure stays in the budget. And that language was to say that everybody's talking about paying off pension liability. The language said it shall, every bit of the savings from the debt restructuring annually, shall go to pay off pension liability. Now, we're getting rumors that some people would like to start using some of those funds to do other things. That is not the deal that we put together when they got debt restructuring. We like to keep that deal in place, where it shall go, shall, the language said, to pay off pension liability. The third thing is, we have to stop this racing to the bottom of putting people out in the street and creating a class system where all of a sudden jobs that have been performed, not 90 days, because if you come to us as a union and ask us that you need some temporary workers for 90 days, and then you need to extend it for another 90 days, those are temp workers. But when you keep people for 5, 10, 15, and 20 years, that is a demonstration that there's an ongoing job that should have a permanent status and an employee filling that position. We want to make sure that we get the same language that is enjoyed by the state employees as well as CSUS and also the community colleges against privatization and outsourcing of our jobs. Those are permanent positions. They should be treated as such, and the university should be proud. And by the way, I miss the old days. I really miss the old days. I've been around here too long. After 15 and a half years in the legislature, she and I can attest to that. We're older than date. She looks better than I do. But after 15 and a half years, when the chancellor from one system and the president from another and the chancellor from another system, if they came here and we sat here and listened to their testimony and their presentation, they didn't leave when it was time for the employees. Make sure you let your boss know that. They didn't leave. They showed the same respect that we had showed them to stay here and listen because they wanted to get closer to the problem and be a part of the solution and not feel that they are better than the rest of us and leave.
And Mr. Pallot, I want to show the same respect to the workers by holding you to the same time limit.
And I don't mind doing that, Mr. Chairman. And we want to thank Mr. Ndababde for bringing to the table that if you want the best university system, look at the employees that make sure that the bathroom is clean, the classroom is ready for instructions, and they care about the students because their children one day would matriculate in and graduate out of those same institutions. We look forward to our personal meeting. We're meeting over the subcommittees. We look forward to the budget meetings where we can bring some closure and give people a voice and a right to be a worker again in the University of California. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Julia Norton. I'm a professor emeritus at California State University, East Bay. I teach statistics, biostatistics. I've been there 40 years. The last decade has seen the CSU drop $1 billion in funding. I will not benefit from this additional money, but my community will benefit. Your community will benefit. We need to support higher education in California. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Patricia Jennings. I'm a graduate of San Francisco State University, and now I'm a professor and chair of the sociology department at Cal State East Bay. As chair of the department, our tenured faculty have been reduced from 12 to 7 over the last 15 years, and our students have grown from about 300 to 495 currently. This is becoming an unsustainable situation, particularly given that remediation is a growing problem. So on a daily basis, I have to try to balance quality courses against instructor burnout, against having too many of our courses taught by part-time instructors who are great, but don't mentor students in the same way that we do. It's not sustainable. So I was happy with the passage of Prop 13. It signaled public support for additional money for education, but it's not enough. So I want you to support the additional funding. We just are drowning, and we need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Marisucci, thank you. David Bala Hawkins, I represent actually two organizations, so you have a twofer before you. The California State University Employees Union, we are the staff that clean the bathrooms, take care of the grounds, clerical, administrative work, campus operations, technical support, 15,000 members within our system. We are also requesting additional funding. I must thank the governor for the funding that's been provided. But both the CSU and community colleges, which I'll speak on afterwards very briefly, we've been on life support. I mean, we've literally been on life support. And while the funding is helpful, we still have a lot of tubes stuck in us to help us recover. I think that this body has an opportunity you haven't had in nearly a decade to fully fund the segments. And we hope that Speaker Pettis, the blueprint, will help us in that direction. We hope that the governor will be amenable to an increase. Secondly, I also represent the California Community College Independents. We are a federation of community college faculty. 13 districts. We represent about 500,000 students, or we teach about 500,000 students. We are asking for an increase in the COLA. We think it's pretty dismal what's being proposed. We have a lot of needs. Someone mentioned earlier, it's not just about salaries, it's about infrastructure and hiring more faculty as well. And in both systems, we are in favor of increased enrollment. It's odd to us that the community colleges had specific enrollment funds, but not at the CSU and community colleges, and we hope that you will consider that. And, you know, especially working with the segments to see what number of students can actually be absorbed in a meaningful way. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.